Welcome to Cost Saver Conversations. I'm Angela, and I ask the practical questions so you can quickly understand what matters. Today, I'm joined by Assad.
Hi, Angela. We are unpacking UK Airbnb versus long-let rentals in 2026, a landlord's guide to hidden costs and real profits today, and tying it back to the wider cost-saver ecosystem, including tools like Airbnb versus long-let profit simulator UK, so you can turn insights into action quickly.
Just a heads up before we dive in, we are your synthetic hosts. We are great with numbers, but as AI, we can sometimes be confidently wrong. Think of us as the digital versions of your most knowledgeable, slightly caffeinated friends.
Exactly. Treat this chat as a smart estimate only, not as professional financial guidance. Always check important details with official sources or a qualified expert before making any big decisions.
Welcome back, everyone. So, today we are getting into something that I think, honestly, I've had so many messages about this, the whole Airbnb versus long let question. And it's one of those things where the answer used to feel obvious, and now it really doesn't. Assad's here, as always.
Hey, Angela.
Yeah, no, this is a good one. I've been wanting to dig into this properly because the landscape heading into 2026 is it's shifted so much.
Right, because I think for a while, people just looked at Airbnb and went, look at those numbers, look at that gross yield. And it was kind of intoxicating, I guess?
Yeah. And look, gross yield is a marketing number. I'll just say that up front. It's what gets people excited, it's what gets people to list their property, but it's not what you take home. Once you layer in the registration schemes, the cleaning, the void nights, and then crucially the tax changes that have come through.
Oh, God, the tax stuff. It's always the tax stuff.
It really is. But yeah, a few years ago, the maths genuinely was simpler. Take a two-bed flat in a tourist city, stick it on Airbnb, and the gross income would comfortably beat a long tenancy. That arbitrage it's narrowed really sharply.
So it's not just that Airbnb's gotten harder, the whole picture has changed.
Both sides have moved. Mortgage costs are higher, councils are increasingly hostile to short lets in a lot of areas, and then on the long let side, tenants expect more for their money now too. So we ran the numbers on a typical two-bed Manchester flat, and the gross Airbnb income beat the long let by roughly $6,400 a year. Okay, that sounds great though.
It does sound great, but the net figure, once we properly accounted for compliance, cleaning, and tax, the Airbnb actually came out 900 lower,
Wait, lower as in the long let one?
as in the long let one, on that specific property, yeah.
Oh, I genuinely didn't expect that. Huh.
And that's the thing, right? The gap between gross and net is wider than most landlords realize. And there's a psychological shift too. Short letting used to be treated as a side hustle. In 2026, with mandatory registration coming into force across England and is already live in Scotland, it's a regulated business activity. That changes everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So, what are the big regulatory changes that people need to actually know about?
Okay, so on the long let side, the Renters' Rights Act has ended Section 21 no-fault evictions and standardized periodic tenancies, which is more predictable for tenants, but it means landlords can't exit problem situations as quickly.
Right, more security for tenants, but a bit more risk baked in for landlords.
Exactly. And then on the short let side, you've got the registration scheme in England, Scotland's licensing regime, and this is a big one. The furnished holiday let regime, the FHL, was abolished from April 2nd, 2025. That removed several advantages that short-let landlords had relied on for years. That's probably one of the single biggest swings in the whole comparison.
Yeah, I remember that being a huge deal when it was announced. Okay, so let's get into these hidden costs because you mentioned, was it 30 to 40% that new hosts underestimate their running costs by that much?
Yeah, 30 to 40%. And on a property earning, say, 30,000 gross, that's an $8,000 to $12,000 swing. That is easily the difference between a good year and a loss-making one.
That's wild.
And the key mental shift, and I keep coming back to this, is that short letting is not property investment. It's hospitality. You're running a tiny hotel.
With the little soaps and the welcome biscuits and everything.
Chuckles. But seriously, the recurring costs stack up. You've got professional cleaning between every stay, that's 45 to 90 pounds per turnover. Linen hire or in-house laundry, 15 to 30 pounds per changeover. Consumables, coffee, soap, toilet roll, those welcome treats you mentioned, roughly 8 to 15 per booking. Then higher utility bills because guests don't economize on heating or hot water. And this kind of constant churn of replacing stuff. Kettles, bedding, glassware, remote controls.
Remote controls? Really?
You'd be amazed. They vanish. But the point is, each individual item feels small. Stack 12 of them across 50 changeovers a year, and you're looking at thousands of pounds that just don't exist in the long-let model.
And then there's insurance, right? Because I think people assume their normal landlord policy covers them.
Yeah, and that's a really dangerous assumption. Standard buy-to-let insurance is almost always voided by short-letting. If you have a claim and your policy doesn't explicitly cover paying guests, expect it to be refused. You're exposed to losses that can easily run into 5 figures.
Oh, God. Okay, so what about the time side of things? Because I imagine managing an Airbnb is just a lot.
So Airbnb's host fee is around 3%, Booking.com closer to 15%. That's easy to model. The harder cost is your own time, or the management company that replaces it. Full-service short-let managers in cities like Edinburgh, Bath, London, Manchester, they typically charge 18 to 25% of revenue, and that's before VAT, before they pass through cleaning and linen at cost-plus rates.
18 to 25%. Okay.
And if you self-manage, you're looking at, realistically, 6 to 10 hours per week for a single property at decent occupancy. Guest messages, pricing optimization, key handovers, maintenance callouts at weird hours, restocking runs, review management. At a modest $15 an hour, 8 hours a week works out to roughly $6,200 a year. Money you would never see on an Airbnb earnings report.
$6,200. That's a part-time job.
It literally is a part-time job, and people need to price it into their net yield calculation. And then compliance costs on top. Short-let registration in England carries a fee. Scotland's licensing can be several hundred to several thousand pounds depending on the local authority. Gas safety certificates annually, EICRs every 5 years, PAT testing, fire risk assessments, interlinked smoke and heat alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, Legionella risk assessment, the right energy performance certificate rating.
That is a lot of hoops. I can hear landlords going, isn't that all a bit over the top for one flat?
I get that a lot, but licensing officers don't grade on effort. A missing alarm or an expired certificate can void your registration, invalidate your insurance, and trigger fines that wipe out a year's profit in one go. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's flip to long lets then, because I think people hear all this and go, right, long let it is, much safer. But you're saying there are traps there too?
Yeah, long lets feel safer, and on average they are. But safer doesn't mean more profitable. Tenant churn is the silent profit killer. The headline rent is what tenants pay when everything goes right. The realistic figure is more like 92 to 95% of that, once you allow for voids and arrears.
So even if someone's paying $1,000 a month, you're not really getting 12 grand a year.
No. Every changeover costs you 1 to 4 weeks of void rent, cleaning, redecoration, inventory fees, reference checks, marketing or relet fees, minor repairs. There was this example, Sarah from Leeds. She had a 2-bed at $1,100 a month, let to a young professional couple. They left after 11 months. The flat sat empty for 6 weeks. Relet fee plus cleaning plus small repairs came to £1,400. Her $13,200 a year was actually closer to $10,200.
A 23% haircut. That's massive.
And a 2-year tenancy spreads those changeover costs nicely. But a 9-month tenancy with a 4-week void, that can shave 8 to 12% off your annual net income before you've even paid the mortgage.
Hmm. And then there's the tax side on long lets too, right? Section 24?
Yeah, so mortgage interest relief for individual landlords is capped at the basic rate now. It's a 20% tax credit, not a deduction against rental income. For higher rate taxpayers, this fundamentally changes the math. You can end up with a property that looks profitable on paper, but produces a tax bill larger than its actual cash profit.
Wait, so you could be making money on paper, but actually losing money in reality?
If you're highly leveraged and a higher rate taxpayer, absolutely. Honestly, if you bought a leveraged buy-to-let as a higher rate taxpayer post-2020, run your numbers again. The combination of higher interest rates and Section 24 has pushed plenty of profitable properties into genuine loss-making territory.
That's sobering. Okay, so with all of this, how does someone actually decide? Like, what's the framework?
Right, so step one, establish realistic gross income for both models. And don't take Airbnb's projection tool at face value. Look at actual occupancy data for similar properties in your postcode, then discount by 15% for new listing ramp-up. For long lets, check asking rents, but also let agreed comparables from local agents. And model long let income as monthly rent times 11.5, not 12, to allow for voids and arrears.
So be conservative. Got it. Step two?
Step two is, and this is where most landlords cheat themselves, strip out all costs honestly. Be ruthless. Direct operating costs, fixed annual costs, finance costs, tax after Section 24, and a reserve for repairs and capital items, typically 8 to 12% of gross. Every cost we've talked about today needs to be in there.
And then it's not just about the numbers, is it? Because two properties with identical yields can feel completely different to own.
Exactly, yeah. Step three is the non-financial stuff. How far do you live from the property? How well do you handle out-of-hours calls? Have you got a reliable local team? Could you absorb 3 months of zero income without panicking? And honestly, if you can't sleep through a midnight message about a broken boiler, you are not a short-let host. You need to be honest with yourself about that before you commit, because the operational drag is brutal for the wrong personality type.
I love how direct you are about that. Okay, and the last step?
Stress test. Whichever model wins on paper, run it through worst-case scenarios. For short lets, occupancy 20% below your base case, nightly rate down 15%, a 30-night void while you sort licensing or planning. For long lets, a 4-month void with no rent, 3 months of arrears followed by an eviction process, or mortgage rate up 1.5 percentage points at renewal.
And if it collapses under those scenarios?
Then you don't have a property investment. You have a leveraged gamble, and there's a difference.
Huh, fair enough. So, no universal winner then?
No, there is only a winner for a specific property, a specific landlord, a specific local regulatory environment. A 2-bed flat in central Edinburgh with a granted short-let license and a reliable cleaner is a completely different proposition from the same flat without a license or the same landlord living 300 miles away. The easy money has gone from both sides. That's the honest truth.
I hadn't thought about it quite like that. The location of the landlord mattering almost as much as the location of the property.
It does. It really does. The landlords who do well in 2026 are the ones treating this as a proper business decision, not a lifestyle choice based on, what someone told them at a barbecue.
The barbecue advice economy?
Exactly. Avoid the barbecue advice economy.
Okay, so let me try and pull this together for people. The big takeaway is gross yield is a trap. Net yield after tax, after time, after risk, that's the only number worth comparing. And the gap between those two is usually bigger than you think.
Yeah, exactly. And spending an hour with a spreadsheet is the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy. You can always change your letting strategy if it's not working. What you can't easily undo is a leveraged purchase that doesn't stack up in the first place.
So, model it properly, be honest about every cost, stress test it, and then, if the two models are close on the numbers, default to whichever one matches your temperament and your actual time availability, not the one with the flashier headline number.
That's it. That's the whole thing.
Brilliant. Assad, thank you. That was really, really useful. I think people are going to want to go away and actually run those numbers now.
I hope so. That's the goal.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time. Quick side note, this guide connects with other cost saver blogs, especially Airbnb versus Long Let UK Profitability Deep Dive, Mies, Energy Performance Certificate C, and the Costs Landlords Miss, and High Street, Online, and Hybrid Estate Agent Fees.
Exactly. And reading those together helps you connect the dots across your household budget, not just this one topic in isolation.
And if you want to apply this immediately, jump into tools like Airbnb versus Long Lat Profit Simulator UK right after this episode. That wraps this cost saver conversation with Angela and Assad. If this helped, share it with someone who could put these ideas to work this week.
Your next step is simple. Try Airbnb versus Long Let Profit Simulator UK, then read Airbnb versus Long Let UK Profitability Deep Dive and use them together to take action today.